Okay, welcome back to Terrace Talk, and we are doing our FA Cup previews this week, and I'm looking forward to this one. Chelsea and Leeds, two teams that just hate each other. That's what you love as a neutral. We are delighted to be joined from Chelsea Fan TV, Charlie Patrick. Welcome, Charlie. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, mate. All good. Thanks, I've been looking forward to getting stuck into it.
Yeah, and we have our resident Leeds fan, Steve. How are you, Steve?
All good, thank you, Mark.
All right, let's get straight into this one. First of all, Charlie, if we start with you, the history between these clubs actually started back in the 1970 FA Cup game where the tackles, I think a recent referee had said if he'd have re-refereed that game, there would have been 9 red cards, and the hostility hasn't subsided between then. When you draw Leeds, what was your reaction?
Well, I mean, obviously pleased in terms of the fact that we're at home, and it's nice to avoid, with the greatest respect, one of the bigger teams like a Man City or a Liverpool or something like that. It gives us a better opportunity to advance into the quarterfinals. But look, Leeds is going to be a tough game. It's much better for us that it's at Stamford Bridge. Last time we went to Elland Road, we got hammered 3-0. It wasn't the best trip for us. But look, we've got to fancy ourselves for sure. And I would say I was pleased with the draw because as a Chelsea fan, we're not doing the best right now. You want to try and avoid the bigger sides when you can. So I think it's a good draw for us, but Leeds are flying high in the Championship, and it's certainly not going to be a pushover by any accounts.
Yes, Steve, what was your reaction when you drew Chelsea, and what do you understand as the history of this fixture? Obviously, you're both relatively young fans to it, but you can't be unaware of the complete dislike this two sets of fans have for each other.
No, I guess being a Leeds fan, there's still chants on the terrace about Chelsea, and if we was if you was asked by your father whether you wanted to be a Leeds or a Chelsea fan and how you would respond. So, yeah, as a Leeds fan, it's built into our DNA not to like Chelsea. So I know it's been going on for a number of years, and over the years there's been some really tasty fixtures, and some really tasty games as well. But in terms of my reaction to the actual draw, I was always much more on the side of preferring to get Charlie's Chelsea than I was Aston Villa, because around that time I think Aston Villa were flying. I think Chelsea did well in that first game to get the draw, and then I think, maybe you tell me, but I think Chelsea fans were probably surprised at just how much they smashed them in that second game. It were a really comfortable win, and yeah, it made me then think a bit more. All right, actually, it may not be an easier game than Villa, but still going to be a really good opportunity to go test ourselves, because we are absolutely flying. We could be humbled, but it's good that in the game now it will go straight to extra time or penalties, right? It's not going to be a potential replay. So that's our biggest chance, I think, is to try and dig in and see what happens. But yeah, it's certainly going to be a tasty Wednesday evening.
Charlie, just explain for us in the Championship what's happening with Chelsea, because such a great cup side this year, obviously in the finals against Liverpool, in the Carabao Cup, and then some great performances in the FA Cup as well. But then in the league, it hasn't worked out for you. Can you put your finger on what's happening? Why are Chelsea up for the cup and could give two hoots about a consistent league performance?
Yeah, no, it's been difficult for us in the league. There was when we put the squad together, how it's been assembled. I think part of that was going to lend itself to inconsistencies. Now, I didn't expect the inconsistencies to be as big as they had, where some weeks we look like the guys have never played football before, and then other weeks, we look like a really good side. I think we're still bedding in. Yes, I know we spent a lot of money, but nowadays, you need more than just spending money to be successful in football. You need a culture and identity. And the most boring thing, you need time. Like these things do take time to put together. You're never going to sign 16, 17 players across 2 windows and then it suddenly just be an amazing team at the first time of asking. Now, should we be doing better than we're doing? Yeah, we should be, realistically. But I think right now the ceiling for this team is probably Europa League. whilst these players are getting used to the league, getting used to each other, and then, finding their feet in this league. Because a lot of these guys have kind of come in and they've not been bought in to be a success like right now. Obviously that's going to help, but they've been bought in on their potential and what they can do in the next sort of 2-3 years time. But yeah, look, it has been tricky for us. Certainly over the last 3 games we've had, there have been signs that maybe we've turned a corner. A really surprising performance at Villa Park when we needed a performance desperately. We pulled out one of our best of the season. We ground out a result at Crystal Palace despite a shocking first half. We showed a bit of never say die attitude and kept going right to the end. And then we were unlucky not to beat Man City on Saturday evening, probably certainly for 60, 70 minutes, put in our best performance of the season, and could have easily, with better finishing, been 2 or 3 goals up. So I think we're starting to come into a bit of form, but yeah, this season is been, I think, inconsistent is the one word to describe it. We've not been helped by a lot of injuries to key personnel for long periods of time. That's also hard, where you've got to make changes every week and you're trying to build continuity amongst the young team. That's not helpful. But yeah, look, I think there's positive signs for the future. But I'd say this season so far has definitely been frustrating. But with this game against Leeds coming 3 days after the Carabao Cup final, we could be heading into it on a real high, or we could be heading into it on a bit of a downer after Wembley. So that could potentially have maybe an impact on the outcome, or certainly an impact on what sort of mindset we might be entering the game into.
And it's the same for Leeds, isn't it, Steve? Because you have got a huge game on Friday night against Leicester, visit Elland Road, where you're unbeaten all season, and then obviously the trip to Chelsea and then Huddersfield the week after. So which of these would you prefer to win? Would you prefer to beat Leicester and close the gap, or would you prefer to get your first win at Elland Road for nearly over 20 years?
At Stamford Bridge, you mean?
Stamford Bridge, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, let's be sensible with that question. I don't want to be, but no, beating Leicester is much more important for us to gain what we need in order to get promoted out of the Championship. Everyone's seeing just how tight it is, the top 4, and any advantage that we can get there to pull away from the pack and get towards the Premier League is absolutely and should be the priority. However, similar to Chelsea, right? If we get a good result on Friday and the place is bouncing, the boys are going to then be looking forward to the Chelsea game. No one's going to want to be dropped. No one's going to be rested. I think it's a bit of a similar thing with Chelsea, and fair play to the other teams in the FA Cup as well. You're not seeing a lot of weakened sides too heavily weakened. So yes, they may make some changes. I never want Chelsea to be lifting silverware, but should they lift any silverware in the Carabao Cup final, I hope they have a lot of celebrations and enjoy the celebrations. Maybe a 48-hour bender will be helpful for Leeds, and then we can face them at Stamford Bridge on that Wednesday. And I think both teams, a lot of the players will need to be educated about the history and the background. But I think we've got 2 managers in Daniel Farke and Pochettino who will take that seriously on behalf of the fans. And we go into that as underdogs, of course we do. But it's a game of football. It's there to be had. Chelsea do seem to be turning a bit of a corner at the moment, but we've got to play our own game, taking our confidence and sort of measure ourselves against an inconsistent side, but albeit a team full of some real classy football players.
Yeah. Okay. Can I just ask you both a question about the FA Cup in general then? It's been playing midweek and there's been comments made by a lot about actually this cheapens this competition a little bit, with it not having obviously weekend status and people being able to comfortably go and watch it. What's your views on this? Should the FA Cup always still be a weekend without any other games being played 2 minutes around it?
I guess for me, yeah. I think especially the first leg, as it were, in a tie. I do understand that sometimes the replays need to go into midweek, but yeah, it does feel like we're sandwiching the game in between the week, in between the league, and I think it is taking a little bit of a shine off the history of what is it, the oldest ever competition within world football, I think. So me personally, yeah, I would like the games to be played on a weekend.
Okay. Charlie?
Yeah, I think it does cheapen it slightly. Obviously, you have third round weekend. Obviously, that's all on the weekend. Then initial fourth round ties were weekend as well. You understand replays have got to be midweek. It's a packed calendar. I get that. There's no more replays now. It does kind of feel like, look, I get it. Like, it's not easy to plan the football schedule. Like I mean, we've all got comments about it, but the reality of it is it's a difficult thing to do. And some games are going to have to go midweek. But yeah, I think it does cheapen it slightly. I think it takes away from it a little bit. It makes it a lot more difficult for the fans as well. I mean, luckily for me, it's only Stamford Bridge, so it's not far to go. But if you're travelling down from Leeds on a Wednesday night to Chelsea for what, a 7:30 kickoff, I think it is, that's a long trip, a lot of money. Not much consideration really goes to the fans on that one. But look, I guess next round, quarterfinals, that goes back to the weekend. I presume semi-finals and then final, obviously weekend as well. So, like, generally, most of the FA Cup does run on the weekend. But yeah, I guess it maybe takes a little bit of a shine away from it, particularly coming off the back of two massive games for both clubs beforehand.
Yeah. Okay. How many are you taking, Steve? How many's getting on the coaches and behaving themselves on?
A few. The behaving themselves will be a small minority, but yeah, a couple of thousand, I believe it is.
Right. Okay. It's a sellout then, is it? Okay. When was the last time, Steve, that you can remember Leeds winning at Stamford Bridge?
Do you know? I've got. Yeah, I'm probably going to the Viduka Smith era that I can remember off the top of my head.
What I thought we'd do just to finish off is have a look at the teams the last time Leeds did win at Stamford Bridge and just compare the team for Chelsea against the team for Chelsea now. 1999 it was when Chelsea last won there. And big thanks to our friends at 11vs11.com who have very gladly allowed us to use our graphic here. So have a look at these teams and just see what you think. So Stephen Maffeo, there's a name some Leeds fans won't remember.
That's a decent Leeds side.
Yeah, Charlie, starting with you, if this Chelsea side played the current Chelsea side, who'd win?
I think, to be fair, I think maybe the current side would probably win. I mean, there's some good players there. I mean, Desai and LeBeuf, top defenders. I'm not really sure how old they were at that point in time. Not a huge fan of Chris Sutton, but Didier Deschamps, Di Matteo, Gus Poyet. It's a decent side, but I think there's a few guys that are, if I can remember rightly, probably slightly elder statesmen at that point in their careers. So yeah, I'd say the current side would probably have the beating of this team here. But I mean, it's not a bad lineup. But I'd say the Leeds lineup is pretty good. Ian Hart, Nigel Martin, Lee Bowyer, Kuehl. It's a decent side.
I won't ask if you were around in 1999 because that would be rude. But I can't imagine you were that old.
I've been around for maybe a couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. And Steve, I mean, first of all, Nigel Martin. There won't be any better goalkeeper than that at Leeds. What an absolute legend. But yeah. How do you think this side would get on against the current crop?
I mean, individually, they are better, and they've achieved more internationally. You look at players like Woodgate, what he went on to have with his career, Kelly Hart, Martin, all played constantly on the international level. Same with Lucas, Bakker, Bowyer. Like, these are some excellent players. Harry Kuehl, though, I really don't want to be talking too much about him, what he did in his career. But what I always think about today's game versus these is the fitness of the players today. It's just completely different. So it's almost like, of course, these teams are a lot better than, with all due respect, the League Two and non-league football. But there would be a little bit of they would want to make it rough a tough game. And the modern teams are probably a lot more agile and fit. But listen, those are the teams that you've just showed me. Though that Leeds team is the type of teams that I grew up absolutely adoring, and really what got me into football. So I'll go with the team from '99.
Yeah, Lee Bowyer, crikey.
What a
player. Yeah, he'd love this type of game now, wouldn't he? All right, let's get some score predictions then before we depart. Then those are score predictions and red card predictions. Charlie, I'll give you first dibs on this one. What do you reckon?
I think we'll win, but I think it'll be closer than people think. Again, it depends what sort of side Leeds put out as well. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 Chelsea win.
Okay. And Steve, you've had 23 other fans on this channel each week saying, Leeds are good, but they'll come straight back down. They're not Premier League material. Here's your chance to prove them wrong against Chelsea, isn't it? What are you going with as a score?
It's a really good opportunity just for us to measure ourselves, but let's not get carried away from ourselves. This is a Chelsea team who, like Charlie said, should be going for Europa League and playing towards the top of the league. So should we get B, as long as it's not too embarrassing, we can take that into our stride. So listen, I've got to be optimistic going into the game. So I'm going to predict a late evening, though I don't want it, and it'll be a late all evening. I'm going to say that we're going to go through and beat them in extra time.
Oh, I love that. Okay. I can appeal to Chelsea fans now in the comments, writing saying, "Who is this deluded Leeds fan?" Listen, both, thank you very much for joining us. Steve, obviously, we'll see you next week, and we'll be chatting about the Leicester result. If you beat them, you are closing that gap and making some Leicester fans very nervous. We'll talk about that next week and preview Huddersfield. Charlie, thank you so much. All the best for you and all the team there at Chelsea TV. And if you are a Chelsea fan that don't yet watch Charlie's content, then why not? There's in the comments below, there is a link to Charlie's channel and Charlie's Twitter as well. Thank you so much, Charlie, and good luck for the rest of the season as you finish. What are you going to go with? Finish ninth, 8th? Do you think you'll finish?
Well, maybe 7th. Seventh is still on. I think we're only a couple points off that. So yeah, maybe we can push for that. Win the cup at the weekend, and we don't have to worry about Europe because that'll be at least Conference League guaranteed. So yeah. We'll wait and see what happens. A pleasure to be on, guys. Thanks for having me, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Nice one. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Steve.
All the best.
Nice one, fellas.